Evan,
Yes.
you were on last week. Since then, it feels like there's been a big shift in this safety room. Talking Craig Woodson, feels like he's leaped Kyle Duggar in that safety room. Duggar running a lot with the twos again today, which is a continued theme, what we've seen from the last couple practices, and had a defensive pass interference flag out there. So even when he's out there, not great performance from Kyle Duggar. Where do you think this kind of ends? Just an expensive backup? They cut him with the contract? Are they able to work out a trade? What do you think just kind of the future is for Kyle Duggar in this secondary?
I'm shocked by what's happened to Kyle Duggar, honestly. I thought last year we were all ready to give him sort of like a mulligan on last season. Injuries, like just things going on for Kyle Duggar. And I was like, all right, well, maybe that was just a year from hell for him, right? And then we came back in this camp, and I thought he was going to be fully healthy, and he just doesn't look like he's gotten that burst back or that explosiveness back that we've seen in the past. And Taylor, I think you said it the last time that I was on, he used to mix in those splash plays. Like he would give up plays, but then he'd have like a great pick or a pick six or a fumble recovery like he had against Detroit a couple of years ago. Like something that just gravitated towards like what happened to the guy in Vegas that jumped that screen pass and walked into the end zone. Like that guy's just
I miss him.
Just gone like at 29 years old. Like it's just shocking to me that this is where we are now. Long-winded answer, but is there a world where Kyle Duggar is just not a great scheme fit for Mike Vrabel and this just isn't a great defense for him and he goes someplace else and he thrives in a different kind of scheme? I suppose, but to me it looks like he's not moving very well out there, and that gives me some concern.
And there was one other thing Mike Vrabel mentioned is that Kyle Duggar missed the entire spring. And I think that's something that needs to be brought up because in this this is something I kind of been harping on, in this new quarters defense, those two deep safeties have to have strong chemistry because you are literally one step away from giving up a deep touchdown in those responsibilities. And there's different ways to recognize coverages and know what the other guy's going to do and how you're going to respond to those things. If Duggar's not even in the mix and he's not on the field, it's not as much a situation where I'm saying, oh, okay, eventually he'll figure it out by week one. He isn't repping with these guys. And on top of that, I think Vrabel mentioned like the time missed. He just needs to be like something along the lines of like be where he is, just know his assignment. So it sounds like it's not just physical. It sounds like there's a mental hurdle that Kyle Duggar has to overcome. And Vrabel said he's had the right attitude and all that, but it just from a physical perspective of not even having the range of like Jabril Peppers missed time in the spring too, but he's still a great athlete. You see him flying around out there, and Duggar you don't as much. So if you're not able to mentally be ahead of the offense and physically you can't make up for it, you get what you have, where it's like he hasn't been disastrous, but you also don't see him making any positive plays or really notice him for good reasons. So it is unfortunate. It's crazy that the drop-off has been like this, and it feels like such a missed opportunity for Kyle Duggar. But I think at this point, like Jalen Hawkins is one of your starting safety. He has been for a long time. Vrabel praised his availability, said that he watched the tape last year and was like, hey, this is a guy I want to bring back. So him, Peppers, Craig Woodson, maybe Marcus Epps stays as someone that, Josh McDaniels is familiar with. I don't know, but I don't really see how Kyle Duggar stays on this team unless you either move positions. Because he's going to play special teams?
Yeah, it's disappointing to me because I'm a pretty big Kyle Duggar defender in the past. I know that he gives up plays in coverage from time to time, but the splash plays have always made up for it. Like the turnovers, the ability to make impact on the ball, as a tackler and take on defenders as a blocker, or, blockers take on, and I just, like all of that, I thought that he was a much better player than he was given credit for before last season, and then last season he got hurt. So I was like, all right, we'll just brush that under the rug and we'll just pick it back up where we left off, and it just hasn't been that for him so far. And you mentioned the mental thing, like that makes sense when you're trying to you don't have that anticipation and you don't have that ability to be, like you said, a step ahead. That would make sense to me, but he was an explosive athlete. Like this was someone that was a fantastic combine tester and really was a high-end athlete. So I just wonder if maybe that ankle is just kind of compromised or something. I'm totally speculating, but it just seems so crazy to me that he just doesn't look like he's moving well, and that's just not Kyle Duggar.
It's such a pivot from the Duggar we've seen, and it is disappointing. Yeah. It's also disappointing Taylor keeps wearing these flowered shirts as we get attacked by bees sitting over there. He's got so many good shirts, but he keeps going with the floral flowers one. I came into the week wondering if you were looking at maybe a trade candidate for Kyle Duggar. Maybe Brian Flores would be interested, right? A similar scheme, guy who is familiar with him. You're talking to some Vikings reporters, actually. The player they were more interested in was Kendrick Bourne because they're down Justin Jefferson today. Jordan Addison has that suspension. They lost Rondell Moore for the season. So, Kendrick Bourne, who's still not practicing, wasn't even out here today. Maybe that's a trade target for the Minnesota Vikings going forward with that crowded wide receiver room.